Hello, we are Group 6. Roberto Summers, Genti Satri, and myself are here in room 110 on Tuesday, March 23rd to give to you our theology presentation. And our topic is, drum roll please, war and violence. I thought it would be appropriate to start out with a definition from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary to let everyone know what violence is defined as. It is an exertion of physical force so as to injure or abuse. Can also be an instance of violent treatment or a procedure. An example of this, as they list, is warfare or illegal entry into a household. Unfortunately, we live in a very violent world. Every day, we see on our local news crimes that are fueled by violence. Such crimes can be like robbery or riots. I recently just saw on the news a segment about flash mobs in which teens would communicate via text, and they met at South Street on Saturday night, March 20th. The purpose of the meeting was to cause trouble, but luckily the police responded in time to subdue the crowd. Only 3 arrests were made, and 2 of the 3 arrests were teenagers. It is sad to see that society is turning toward violence as a social norm or a form of entertainment, like this example that happened just a few days ago on Saturday night. On a broader scale, technology has improved and consequently made wars deadlier and more violent than ever before. It is sad to see that countries attempt to solve problems through warfare. Roberto will discuss another unjust war in a few minutes and how the church is against it. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to Genti, who's going to tell us what the church teaching is on violence and war. So here you go, Genti.
Thank you, Jim. The church teaching on war and violence. The church urges everyone to pray because of the evils that accompany war and violence. All citizens and governments are obliged to work for the avoidance of war and violence. However, people, as well as governments, can't be denied the right of self-defense once all peace efforts have failed. The strict conditions for legitimate defense by force require rigorous considerations. 1. Damage inflicted by the aggressor on the nation or person must be lasting, grave, and certain. 2. All other means of putting an end to the violence must have been ineffective or exhausted. 3. There must be serious prospects of success for going to war or using violence. And 4. The nation or person must not produce evils graver than the evil to be stopped. When these conditions are met, and in the case of war, public authorities have the right and duty to impose on citizens the obligations necessary for national defense. Those who are sworn to serve the country and carry out their duty honorably contribute to the common good and the maintenance of peace. The Church and human reason both assert the validity of the moral law during war, which means non-combatants, wounded soldiers, and prisoners must be respected and treated humanely. Also, actions contrary to the law of nations and its universal principles are crimes, as are the orders that command these actions. Blind obedience doesn't excuse those who carry them out. One is morally bound to resist orders that command the evil doing. That is all for church teaching. And we're going to give it over to Roberto, who will give an example of the just war.
Well, an example of an unjust war would be the Iraq War. Pope John Paul II himself, along with a couple of cardinals and bishops, told President George Bush that the invasion into Iraq would be an unjustified act. The Pope and his cardinals were against a preemptive strike into the invasion of Iraq. The Archbishop Jean-Louis Taran said that a war of aggression is a crime against peace. John Paul II sent Cardinal Pio Lahi to say that the war would be illegal and that God wouldn't help if America invaded Iraq. The president defended himself by explaining that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. Going to war would simply be self-defense and keeping the peace. The Iraq War is an unjust war because it breaks the elements of the just war doctrine. We invaded Iraq mainly because of the destruction of the Twin Towers on September 11th. According to the just war doctrine, The damage inflicted by the aggressor must be lasting, grave, and certain. Technically, the Iraqi nation did not do anything except produce the terrorists that came from there. America invaded Iraq for the wrong reason. Another point would be our government didn't seem as if it tried any other means of negotiating the events that happened on September 11th. America didn't try to prevent a war, therefore the Iraq War was unjustified. That concludes our lecture for War and Violence. Back to you.